Good evening, everyone. We will call this agenda work session for September 12th to order. This is to set the tentative agenda for the September 26th council meeting. Roll call, Ms. Middleton.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Helton. Here. Councilmember Cagle.
Here.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Here.
Councilmember Witt. Here. City Manager Dorsey.
Here.
City Attorney Litchfield.
Here. All right, so underneath old business, item A, ordinance number 1113, ordinance of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee to amend the fiscal year 2020 operating budget ordinance number 1105, Parks, Police, Solid Waste expenditures. This would be second and final reading if it passes in the regular session tonight. Anything you would like to add?
Yes, I'll start. And I'll
You're-
let Diane finish.
Your mic's on.
Oh, thank you. I'll start and let Diane finish. We had an issue come up with the bids that we had for the police cars. In doing our due diligence review for getting the paperwork together for the bond issuance and everything through TML, the pool, for the debt cert, to be able to incur the debt for that. Going through the list, we noticed that for the purchasing of these vehicles, that we inadvertently left out doing the newspaper ad for them. We did everything else that we were supposed to do. We did all the, we put them on the bid sites, the emails to all the vendors that we have in our purchasing list, everything else, but we accidentally forgot to do the newspaper ad. So with that, to make sure we're following the state purchasing law of 1982, I think it is, 82 or 84, it's one of the two. That's one of the primary components you have to have. So I talked with Stan about this, and we've decided we are going to cancel the bids, and we're going to start the process over to make sure we do it correctly. So with that, on this ordinance, this first one, there is some money in there dealing with the police. Remember I talked about the accounting rule you have to have, where you have to show the loan proceed coming in, and then the quote-unquote expenditure of the police cars that are in there. It's $133,000. So we will amend that line in the budget ordinance for second reading.
Okay.
Well, hopefully we'll talk about it on first reading, but we'll amend it for you all for the second reading. And the bids for the police cars will be in, so we'll be able to discuss those for the October 10th meeting, first meeting in October. We're making sure we have the 2-week period to advertise. Just trying to make sure we're transparent, clear, and doing it correctly. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so we will, as he said, go ahead and pass it on first reading, but then on second reading, I'll take that out. And also, I noticed I made a typo in solid waste where it says insurance recoveries. If you'll notice there, we did receive $164,597. But when I did final, I put 8 instead of 5.
But when we do the first reading, let's just go ahead and
Yeah.
please do an amendment just to say, let's take out the
Yeah.
police, so
Okay.
we'll follow the paper trail.
Yeah. And so it'll just be amending for the tennis courts and for the garbage trucks, sanitation.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any questions? All right, item B, ordinance number 1114, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee to amend Title V, Municipal Finance and Taxation of the East Ridge City Code by amending Chapter 7, titled Occupancy Tax on Hotels and Motels. That would be second and final reading if it passes in tonight's regular session.
I can provide some information. I'll do it again at the 6:30 meeting, but in short, this was MTAS that just is going around notifying various municipalities that while it's always been permitted for occupancy tax to be assessed against short-term vacation rental and bed and breakfast, the state or MTAS is suggesting to municipalities just make sure it's clarified in your code. And it's pretty clear in ours, but we're just going to modify it to at least just incorporate the term bed and breakfast and Airbnb, short-term vacation rental, which are defined as a result of this amendment. And that's all this is. MTAS has recommended we do it. There's an Attorney General opinion out there that says you're allowed to do it. That's as of 2015. So we're just kind of following the advice of MTAS.
Thank you, sir. Council, do you have any questions at this time?
Yes, sir. I noticed in the thing he's asked for 4%. We're allowed to ask for 5, so let's go ahead and ask for the max.
And we were looking at that, Mr. Dorsey and I were looking to make sure that there's no stay on the ability to raise it. If we can, I'll get back to you and tell you that we can do it. I might suggest to you that you do it in 2 different ordinances. MTAS said that as it relates to this one, it's more of a clarification. We can get the clarification and then turn around and we can do it 5%. And I think we can. Short, did you find out anything capped? I know we're capped at 5.
Through my scavenging today to look into it, it used to be higher, and I think they capped it at 5.
That's right. It was 8.
Because like some cities have, Brownsville, I told you, Diane, had 7%. Like Cookeville has 6%, Putnam County. So I think, remember I said I thought they maxed it? I think they've maxed it at 5, but we will double check to make sure that we know the correct answer to that.
So, council, make sure, when it comes up tonight at 6:30, you may want to make that. My only recommendation is let's pass this one for clarification and then come back and raise it from 4 to 5%. And I only say that because of the email I got from MTAS. They just said, make sure and be careful, it's not authorizing the tax, that it's more clarification of the tax. It may not be
That already existed 4%, you mean?
that's right, it already existed 4%. I'm just telling you, you might want to just do these in 2 parts. It may be no difference, but just letting you know that MTAS was, they stated to me, make sure this is a clarification ordinance as to what is applying, since it's always been applied, just to clarify. And it's not what they call an authorization statute or code. And so, I don't know that I have a problem with it. It's just it might be challenged later that they did a clarification and they authorized an additional 1%.
If we did max it at 5, and our hotel and motels are already over, then we would have to come back and do a 2-part to amend the 3rd part to raise it to 5, because this would be raising all of them to 5.
At least on the occupancy tax for the hotels.
I have other questions on it, but I'm going to put a council member to ask about that council meeting.
Yeah, check into that, because I think I'd asked previous city manager, Mr. Miller, about raising the hotel motel tax, and for some reason he was telling me that we couldn't, but maybe.
Because that was my first inclination, but when I just looked real quick this afternoon, I found the cap at 5, and I thought you had to stay where you were, but I couldn't verify that. That's why I thought maybe it.
Was that inquired about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could easily, by the next meeting,
Okay.
make sure we have this information.
Put the microphone in the air, can hear you down
Me?
here.
I
Yeah.
do.
I don't see you red light.
It's weird.
Oh, okay.
Can y'all hear me? Is that better? Come on now. All right, so no other questions on B? All right, item C, ordinance 1115, ordinance of the city council for the city of East Ridge, Tennessee, approving amendments to ordinance 481, zoning ordinance for the city of East Ridge, Article 5. That would be second. Final reading, if approved tonight. This has already been approved by the planning commission, correct? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, that's correct. Brought this before the Planning Commission last night. They approved it. Back in 2011, City Council opted to increase the maximum allowable height of a structure in a C1 and C2 zone to include 72 feet and not to exceed 72 feet with a 48-inch parapet. What I'm asking for this change to make C1, C2, C4 all the same, and removing that language and adding the maximum height of a structure that no building shall exceed 72 feet in height with a parapet not to exceed 48 inches above the roof deck, excluding pitched roofs. So it just make C1, C2, C4 the same. Once you get above C4, you got C5 and C6. C5 is like your neighborhood zones, and C6 is your low traffic zones. So I don't see that becoming an issue, a height issue. So especially when you're looking at a neighborhood zone, so if you do somebody comes forward with a new PUD and they're going to do a lot of single family homes, I'm not real sure that you're going to want a 70 6-foot buildings sitting in the center of them, so it didn't make sense to add it to those, but it does to go ahead and incorporate it with C1, C2, and C4.
All right, thank you, sir. Council, any questions?
I got one that I forgot to ask you a minute ago. What is the maximum height for the aviation problem we're gonna have down here on the lower end?
That I do not know.
Do not know.
No, anything that's going to be built, there's differences between the flight path, the glide path, and the banking angle. But that's all verified through the FAA. So there's certain businesses that if they're going to exceed 75 or 100 feet, then they have to go through the process to get that permitted for verification purposes. So, but that falls on the sole falls on the developer.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Under new business, item A, an unnumbered ordinance, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee to amend ordinance number 899, which amend ordinance number 481, entitled the East Ridge Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, Schedule of District Regulations, C4 Plan Commerce Center District to amend the maximum height limitation. It would be first reading. Mr. Kessler.
I apologize, I believe my memo was put in here twice in the same spot. There's two different ordinances, one's for first reading and one's for second reading.
Okay. So 8C is the same as 9A?
No, 9A is actually not.
Okay.
That's, hang on just one second. That should actually be an untitled ordinance. I don't believe it has a number.
Right, it's a number.
And that's going to be for setback requirements, which should come up tonight. I could talk about it, I don't have it right in front of me, but essentially, it would be all zones, all commercial zones, C1 through C6. And what it is right now, every building that we have has a minimum 25-foot front setback. And on that setback requirement, what we're looking to do is not mandate that they be 25 feet, provide the option to move things closer to the road, provide for better pedestrian accessibility. If you think a lot of the buildings that we have now, or a lot of the things that are coming, and what they're wanting to do is be able to tie into the sidewalks, make the city a little bit more user-friendly, create that walkability factor, and that's kind of what our focus is. So they would allow for a 5-foot minimum setback beyond the edge of the right-of-way, or the public right-of-way.
Thank you, sir. So does that mean that 9A should be actually item D under old business? You said that that's going to be on first reading tonight, the regular council meeting.
Yes, the height requirement is actually going to be for first reading at the next meeting, which was the first one that I discussed. And then the second one I discussed should
In other words,
actually be
his
second.
discussions were backwards.
Yeah.
He told you about, remember you asked about
Oh,
height
okay.
and all that?
Because they're actually, the memos
I
are
see.
in here
Okay.
backwards.
He discussed this one earlier and he meant to.
So they're right on the agenda. There was just a discussion. Was
Yeah, if you go to my memo, it says height.
okay.
Memos are backwards.
Good thing I wrote in pencil.
It's manageable, it's right on the main agenda. Thank you.
Any questions, council? All right. See none, we'll move to item B under new business. Would be a grant consent agenda for an unnumbered resolution, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, for the city to participate in the annual Tennessee River Rescue event.
Drive. Amanda's not here today.
Yes, this is what we do every year. This is just,
Right.
we'll be helping with the cleanup and things like that.
And the TAP grant is for the next section to apply for on Rickle Road. for
And
the
that one I'm
multimodal.
gonna give you.
Oh, okay, what's that? It's the next section of Rickle Road for the multimodal. And it'll go from, hopefully it'll go from McBrien Road eastward to almost to Slope Drive. You know, we're slowly piecing together the multimodal section, starting at the tunnels and working our way eastward.
We're gonna apply up to the $1 million max on the grant.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Do we have any other items we'd like to add to the work session for the next session?
I have one thing I'd like to discuss on communication.
Okay, then we'll start with you.
I got a phone call last night from one of the Shriners, and he was wanting an answer on why they got a letter. Said they couldn't control the parking down there the way they have for the last, ever how long they've been coming. And we've got a better way to do it than they would like to be advised on it. The only problem I know we've had down there during that big truck show, when they were stopping out there with one man taking up money, stopping traffic. The Shrine, we've never had a complaint about it. Because they usually have 6 or 8 people out there that keep the traffic going and putting all the handicap over here on the right-hand side, parking people down, on down further into the other lots. They try to use everything in the front lot for handicap and the side lots there that are closest to the door for the handicap. So, I'd like to see us give them access to do it like they've been doing, because I don't ever remember complaining about traffic being backed up, and I do know that, I don't know if it's followed through, but they asked someone at the park years ago to always notify the softball, baseball people and the soccer people, remind them about the circus coming in, and ask them also to please remember to use the back entrance to keep from doubling up traffic, so they could, keep from just waving them on in. And that would slow things up, but thought I'd ask all of y'all tonight, do we have a better way that we want them to do it? Or can we let them continue doing it the way that they have been doing it ever since they've been out there?
Well, this is the first I've heard of this. We had the issue with the trucks, as you know, a few weeks back, and a lot of the teams that come in don't know to use the back road if they're the visiting teams especially. And I may let Adam get up and talk about this if he was the author of the letter, but I'm assuming it deals with the fact that a lot of people, like with the truck show came in, some people were paying for that and not realizing that they're not supposed to pay if they're going to baseball, soccer, and all that. So we had that issue. Now, how the Shriners have it set up, and if there is a better way, I don't know. We've known about this for 60 seconds, but there may be a plan in place where if they're at the particular lots and you direct them to that, where they can collect the money. But I do know we had the issue last time, and he's probably just trying to be proactive compared to what happened last time. But I'll let Adam speak to it, because this is the first I've heard.
I know when the Shrine down there.
When is that?
They ask for $5, then they hand them the Shrine book, so they know they're collecting $5 for the Shrine, because they're giving them a program, so.
Right. And that's also a through street. That's the other problem.
Right, and I'll echo what Mr. Dorsey is saying. Basically, we were trying to be proactive. I don't know of a letter that was sent to them, but Kim may have sent them an email. I did ask her to contact all of the event operators in the park after we had an incident a couple of weeks ago where Mr. Dorsey had come through the park and we had traffic backing up on Camp Jordan Parkway, and just let them know that we would prefer them to take up their admission either in the arena or in the parking lots and not impede traffic that's flowing to the softball, baseball, and soccer areas of the park.
Or
So
going
that's
all the way through back.
Or going all the way through as a resident. So that was all it was, trying to be proactive.
The circus is here about 2 or 3 weeks, so, I try to get this resolved, so
We can
they
do that.
can be making plans to figure out another way to park people and, because they're willing to work with us, if we've
Right.
heard from them, so.
Well, no problem. I'm surprised they didn't respond to us about that, so we could look into it. So we'll be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to cause any problem, but to echo both of these gentlemen, I've actually been stopped going in and said, need $5 for parking. I'm like, I'm just going to the ball field or I'm going through. And they said, oh, okay then. So I have had some complaints of people feel like they have to pay as they come in when they're not going to an event. And that may be what this is all stemmed from, but we don't want to cause any issues for Shriner Circus either. So, check it out. Anything else, sir?
No, that's it. I noticed we got 2 shrine out here with,
Yeah.
I'm not bringing it up.
Yeah, we don't want to cause any problems. Yeah, I'm sorry. You'll have an opportunity in the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is just the work session. Vice Mayor Hilton, do you have anything? Councilmember Chauncey, Councilmember Witt.
No.
Okay. City Manager?
I have one thing, but I'll mention more of it at the next meeting. I've discussed with you a couple times the reasoning or the rationale to have a work session for a meeting that's still 2 weeks off before you even have the meeting that's going to happen this week. I've never understood why you have it that way. I've had people, even in the audience between them, saying, well, why is this coming up now when it's going to be coming up next? And people being confused on first reading versus second reading. And some of our department heads come up and talk about the exact same thing now. They'll talk about the exact same thing again in 30 minutes. So what I had talked to you about, Mr. Mayor, was the fact of if it's possible to start our regular meetings at 6 o'clock and have if you want to call it the work session or the agenda part of the meeting, have it always be the last thing under new business. So once you finish with tonight's meeting, you can say, here's what's coming up in 2 weeks. Let's go through it and start talking about what those items are at that point. Because like if it's second reading, you'd say, okay, well, we just had the first reading on that tonight. We're going to talk about this at the next reading. And if there's new things, you have it at that time. Just like, you watch TV at 3 a.m., they'll say coming next week or whatever. It just seems to make more sense. I never understood why we're doing
Right.
a
We're
work
talking
session
about,
for something, a meeting that's going to be after the one you haven't even done yet.
we're talking about second reading items for the first
Right.
reading items that have been discussed.
I know people get tired of hearing this, the way it used to be. Council meeting was on Thursday night. Next Thursday night, we had an agenda meeting for the next Thursday.
So back then, they had the agenda meeting before the next meeting, as opposed to this being
You had a meeting, you went to a
Okay, so
meeting.
you see where
Same
it's
concept.
kind of weird.
This one would be tagged on to the end of the regular session. I think so too.
I'll get paperwork and stuff together for that for next week.
Awesome. You said, yeah, that's right, too. I don't have anything here at this time. I have a few things for the regular session, but I will adjourn this meeting and we'll reconvene in 5 for the regular agenda session. Thank you.